What can be done to effect real change to bring about a simpler, more rational tax code? Thank you.
Well, it takes 218 members of the House of Representatives and 51 U.S. senators and a president that will sign the bill. The question is how much you think the country should spend, and then from whom do you get it? And I would point out that despite the tax rates that all the corporate chieftains complain about, the share of earnings, a share of GDP accounted for by corporate profits is at a record. Corporate taxes 40 years ago were 4% of GDP. They're now running about 2%. They've decreased significantly while payroll taxes have increased. It's a real question. And once you get special provisions in the code, it is really hard to get rid of them absent a major revision of the code. I actually think, I may be an optimist on this, but I think both Ron Wyden and Orrin Hatch, the two members of the ranking members, Senate Finance Committee, I think they're capable of working out something that neither one of them likes, but they both like it better than what exists now, and I think it can be made considerably more rational. But in the end, if we're going to spend 21 or 2% of GDP, we should probably raise 19% of GDP. We can take a gap of a couple percent without getting further into debt as a proportion of GDP than we are. So we've got that leeway. But you take 19% of 17.5 trillion or thereabouts, and you're talking, as Senator Dirksen said one time, real money. And how much you get from corporations, how much you get from individuals, how much you get from estate taxes, it's a fight up and down the line. And in terms of the cash abroad, basically you can bring it back. You just have to pay tax at U.S. corporate rates. And our corporate rates are 35%. Charlie and I, a good bit of our life, operated with corporate rates at 52%, later at 48%. And the country grew well. American business prospered during that period. I don't shed any tears for American business in terms of the tax rate overall. I think there could be a much more equitable code in terms of the corporate tax. But I do not think that the 2% of GDP that's being raised from corporate taxes, which is far lower than was the percentage 30 or 40 years ago, I do not think that's an onerous number. And for people who are getting 1/4 or 0.5% on their CDs who retired, and with American business earning on tangible equity, which is the way to measure it, probably averaging close to 15%. I think equity holders are getting treated extraordinarily well compared to debt holders in this economy. Charlie?
Well, I agree with you, and I don't die over this in the tax code either. I live in California, of course, where there's like a 13.5% tax on long-term capital gains, non-deductible for federal purposes. That's a ridiculous kind of a tax to have in California because it drives the rich people out. Hawaii and Florida have enough sense to know that rich people don't commit a lot of crimes, they don't burden the schools, they provide a whole lot of medical expenditures that are good for everybody else's income. I think California has a really stupid tax policy. But I don't think the U.S. policy is. I don't think the U.S. policy is bad at all.
And it's non-deductible because of the alternative minimum tax?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. That really wasn't the case before, but it
No, it's always
kind
been
of slipped in.
No, they did it on purpose. No, they did it on purpose.
We're here, early stages of paranoia.
Yeah. But it's amazing. The idea of driving the rich people out. Florida is so much smarter than California on that subject. And it is really demented. Who in the hell doesn't want rich people coming in and spending in their state?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that as you come here to Nebraska for the meeting. Yeah. I would say that I really do think there's some chance this year, and not a tiny chance. I know both Ron Wyden and Orrin Hatch. They're patriotic. They're smart. They want to do the right thing. They've got different ideas about what the right thing is. There's no question about that. But they also know they can't get any place without cooperating. I think the real opportunity is if they work out of the public eye in working on something like this. And I wouldn't be surprised if they are. I think that's the way to get it done. Charlie has always pointed out what would have happened if the Constitutional Convention back there in Philadelphia had been held with every delegate running out immediately to tell the TV cameras how right he was and how wrong everybody else was. It doesn't accomplish much to dig in on positions and not be in a position to compromise, because it takes a lot of compromise to write something when you have two fundamentally different views on some important aspects of the tax code. But those are two good guys, and I don't think it's impossible at all that we have a new corporate tax code within a year.